The stars had been quiet for 3,000 years. In all that time, the Galactic Council kept peace among hundreds of different alien species. They talked instead of fought. They traded instead of conquered. War was something from ancient history books, something their grandparents' had left behind. Dr. Thelis loved his work. As a Velari, he spent his days exploring old ruins on dead planets. His species looked like tall blue dolphins that walked on two legs. They were gentle people who loved learning about the past. Thelis led a small team of 12 researchers on a ship called the Morning Light. They searched for ancient civilizations, hoping to learn from those who came before. On a cold morning in the outer reaches, Thelis found something that changed everything. His ship detected a massive structure floating near a dead star. It was bigger than anything the Council had ever built. The metal was old, older than any known civilization. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that matched nothing in the galactic database. Thelis felt excited. This could be the discovery of his lifetime. He sent 2 crew members in a small shuttle to take pictures and collect samples. They moved carefully, afraid to damage something so ancient and valuable. When they touched a panel to take a reading, the structure woke up. Lights flickered on across the massive object. Deep inside, machines that had slept for millions of years started moving. Thelis watched his monitors with growing fear as the structure began to change. Panels opened. Things came out. Machines, thousands of them. Then millions. The machines didn't communicate. They didn't ask questions. They simply started working. Thelis watched in horror as they flew to a nearby moon and began tearing it apart. They broke the moon into pieces and used those pieces to build more machines. Within 2 hours, there were 10 times as many. Within 4 hours, 100 times as many. Thelis tried everything to stop them. He fired the Morning Light's weapons, but they were designed for clearing space debris, not fighting. The shots bounced off the machines like rain. He tried sending messages in every language the Council knew. The machines ignored him. They just kept building, kept growing, kept spreading. His crew was terrified. They had never seen anything like this. No one in the galaxy had fought a real war in thousands of years. Their ship had no armor, no real weapons, no way to fight. It was built for comfort and research, not battle. The machines finished with the first moon and moved to the second. Then the third. They worked with perfect efficiency, like a disease spreading through a body. Thelis did the math and felt his blood turn cold. At this rate, they would consume the entire star system in days. Then they would move to the next system. And the next, he had to warn the Council. Thelis recorded a message and sent it on every frequency he knew. He explained what happened, what he found, what was coming. His hands shook as he spoke. Behind him, his crew worked frantically to prepare the ship to run. But it was too late. The machines had already surrounded them. They didn't board the ship or try to capture it. They just took it apart, piece by piece, the same way they took apart the moons. Thelis kept recording until the last moment. His final words were simple and desperate. "They're coming for everything. Someone, anyone, please." The transmission traveled across space at light speed. It reached the Galactic Council headquarters on the planet Centrum 3 days later. The Council members gathered to watch it. They saw Thelis's terrified face. They saw the machines in the background. They heard his final plea. Then they started arguing. The council chamber filled with voices, speaking 100 different languages. Some members said they should send help immediately. Others said they needed to study the problem first. Many said there was nothing they could do. The truth was simple and terrible. The galaxy had forgotten how to fight. Their ships were beautiful and comfortable, with gardens and art galleries and diplomatic suites. Their weapons were old and untested, designed more for show than actual combat. Most species had security forces for handling criminals, not armies for handling wars. Days passed while they debated. The machines kept spreading. They consumed the system where Thelis died, then moved to the next. Reports came in from nearby colonies. The machines were everywhere, growing faster than anyone predicted. They didn't negotiate. They didn't make demands. They just consumed. The Council's military analysts ran the numbers. They used every computer model they had. Every simulation gave the same answer. At current expansion rates, the machine swarm would consume the entire galaxy within 2 years. Every planet, every species, everything. Panic spread through the Council. Some species started evacuating their home worlds, though they had nowhere safe to go. Others tried to hide, hoping the machines wouldn't find them. A few tried to communicate with the swarm, sending messages of peace and friendship. The machines ignored them all. The Council's military committee held an emergency meeting. They needed warriors, but where could they find warriors in a galaxy that had forgotten war? Then someone mentioned the humans, the newest members of the Council, the strange species from the planet called Earth. Most Council members avoided humans. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The diseases were deadly. Even the plants and animals were trying to kill each other. The fact that intelligent life evolved there seemed impossible. Humans were odd in other ways, too. They healed from injuries that would kill most species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could eat foods that were poisonous to others. They could survive in conditions that would be torture for civilized beings. Most disturbing, they seemed to enjoy challenges. They climbed mountains and dove into oceans and explored caves just for fun. The Council had never fully trusted humans. They seemed too aggressive, too unpredictable, too willing to take risks. But now, with the machines spreading and no other options, maybe those strange Deathworld traits were exactly what the galaxy needed. The committee sent a message to human space. They didn't expect much. Humanity was young and small compared to the great civilizations of the Council. What could they possibly do against a threat that terrified species millions of years older? They were about to find out. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the Council's presentation chamber and watched the recording for the third time. On the screen, Dr. Thiles begged for help while machines tore his ship apart. His last words echoed in the silent room. When the recording ended, Chun didn't speak for a long moment. The Council delegates shifted nervously. They were used to humans being loud and emotional, but Chun's silence felt dangerous. She was a small woman by human standards, barely 5.5 feet tall, with gray hair pulled back tight and scars on her hands from years of military service. To the Council members, she looked fragile. They had no idea how wrong they were. "Show me the data," Chun said finally. Her voice was calm, almost cold. The Council's military analyst, an insect-like Kryn named Tick-Tick, brought up charts and graphs. He explained the machine swarm's expansion rate, their reproduction cycle, their complete immunity to all Council weapons. He showed simulation after simulation of the galaxy being consumed. Every model ended the same way. Total extinction. "We estimate 2 years until complete galactic consumption," Tick-Tick said, his antennae drooping with despair. "We have no weapons that can stop them. We have no ships that can fight them. We are hoping perhaps humans have some knowledge, some technology that might help us evacuate or hide. What happened to the Velari ship?" Chun interrupted. Tick-Tick's antennae twitched in confusion. "I'm sorry?" "The Morning Light, Dr. Thiles and his crew. What happened to them?" "They were destroyed. All 12 crew members lost. We have explained this already." Something changed in Chun's expression. The Council delegates couldn't quite identify it, but it triggered instincts buried deep in their evolutionary past. Prey instincts. The instinct to run from a predator. Several members actually stepped backward. "Thank you for the information," Chun said quietly. "I'll bring this to my government." She left the chamber without another word. The council delegates looked at each other in confusion. That was it? No suggestions? No offers to help? The humans were just going to leave? What they didn't understand was that Sarah Chun had already made her decision. She had made it the moment she heard Thelus's final message. Someone had called for help. Someone had died afraid and alone while the galaxy did nothing. That was all she needed to know. Chun returned to human space and went straight to Earth. She met with the Human Defense Coalition in their headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The coalition had been formed 70 years ago when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel and discovered they were not alone in the universe. First contact had been peaceful. But humanity had learned something important. Every other species in the galaxy came from safe worlds. Gentle planets with mild weather and friendly ecosystems. They had evolved without real predators, without diseases that could wipe out entire populations, without nature constantly trying to kill them. Earth was different. Earth was hell. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, ice ages, plagues, and predators that had hunted humans since before they learned to walk upright. Every human alive was descended from survivors. The coalition had asked a simple question 70 years ago. What if the galaxy isn't as peaceful as it seems? What if we need to fight? And so they had started building in secret, away from council observers. Just in case, Chun presented her findings to the coalition council. She showed them the recordings, the data, the simulations. She told them about the Velari crew who died calling for help. When she finished, the room was silent for exactly 5 seconds. Then Admiral Marcus Webb, the coalition's senior officer, spoke 3 words: activate the fleet. The council expected humans to run. They expected evacuation ships, refugee transports, maybe a few desperate defense stations. Instead, something else happened. From hidden shipyards in dead star systems, from bases built inside asteroids, from facilities that didn't exist on any official map, the ships came. The galaxy called them doom ships, and the name fit. They looked nothing like council vessels with their elegant curves and comfortable interiors. Doom ships were brutal and functional. Thick armor covered every surface. Massive engines took up half the ship's volume. Weapons bristled from every angle. There were no luxury quarters, no gardens, no diplomatic suites. Just crew bunks, weapons, and enough supplies to keep humans alive in conditions that would kill any other species. Council observers who managed to get aboard were horrified. The ships operated at temperatures that were painfully cold. The acceleration would crush most species into paste. The food was barely edible. The radiation levels were technically survivable, but nothing more. The gravity was Earth standard, which meant most aliens could barely walk. Why would you build ships like this? A shocked Velari observer asked a human engineer. The engineer shrugged. Because we might need to fight someday. And if we fight to win. But the conditions. Your own people will suffer. Yeah, the engineer agreed. But they'll live. And the enemy won't. That's all that matters. 200 doom ships gathered at the edge of human space. Each one was crewed by volunteers who knew exactly what they were signing up for. The council couldn't understand it. These humans were volunteering for a suicide mission, for people they had never met, for a species that most humans had never even heard of. Admiral Chun addressed the fleet from the bridge of the HDCS Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Every captain watched on their screens as she spoke. You all know why we're here, Chun said. A species called the Velari found something in the dark. It killed them. Now it's killing everyone else. A galaxy is scared. They don't know how to fight. They've forgotten. We haven't." She paused, looking into the camera with hard eyes. "Some of you have families. Some of you have plans for the future. I can't promise you'll come back. I can't promise we'll win. The enemy outnumbers us thousands to 1. The odds are bad. Really bad." Another pause. Chun's expression didn't change. "But here's what I can promise. When Dr. Thelis died, he called for help. The galaxy debated. The galaxy hesitated. The galaxy did nothing. We're not the galaxy. We're human. Someone called for help, and we're going to answer, no matter what it costs." She looked at something off-screen, then back at the camera. "Any crew that wants to transfer out, now's the time. No shame in it. This isn't your fight. Not a single person left their post. Not one." Chun nodded slowly, something like pride crossing her face. "Then let's go remind the universe what humans are made of. All ships, prepare for jump." The council watched in disbelief as the doomed fleet prepared to leave. A few other species volunteered ships to join them. Not many, and not their best vessels, but something. The council officially refused to sanction the mission, calling it reckless and pointless, but several ambassadors quietly provided intelligence. Supply coordinates. Tactical data. Dr. Thelis's message had touched something in them, and humanity's response had shamed them into action. However small dot, as the fleet prepared to jump into the afflicted systems, Chun sat in her command chair and thought about home. About Earth. About a species that had climbed its way up from prey. Animals to apex predators through sheer stubborn refusal to die. The galaxy was about to learn what Deathworlders could do. The jump countdown reached 0, and 200 doomed ships vanished into faster-than-light space. Heading toward Hell. The doomed fleet gathered in a region of space that had no name. It was just empty darkness between stars, far from any inhabited system. 200 human warships floated in formation, their running lights the only points of brightness in the void. Inside each ship, crews made final preparations for what was coming. On the HDC S Indomitable, Admiral Chun walked through the ship's corridors. She stopped to talk with crew members, learning their names, shaking their hands. A young weapons officer named Maria Santos asked if Chun really thought they could win. Chun didn't lie to her. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but we're going to try. That's what humans do. We try even when it's impossible." Santos nodded and went back to her work. Chun continued her walk, visiting the engine room, the medical bay, the gunnery stations. Everywhere she went, she saw the same thing. People who were afraid, but working anyway. People who knew they might die, but prepared like they would live. It was the most human thing she had ever seen. The ship's doctor, a man named James Park, pulled Chun aside in a quiet corridor. "The medical supplies won't last long in a real fight," he said quietly. "If we take heavy casualties, I can keep people alive for maybe 3 days. After that, we run out of everything." "Do what you can," Chun told him. "That's all any of us can do." Park nodded and walked away. Chun stood alone in the corridor for a moment, feeling the weight of 200 ships and 40,000 lives on her shoulders. Then she pushed the feeling down and kept walking. There would be time for doubt later. Right now, she had work to do. Council observers aboard the human ships continued to send reports back to their governments. The reports all said the same thing. These ships were insane. The conditions were terrible. The humans were going to die. A Valari observer named Melaz was assigned to the HDC S Defiant, one of the fleet's heavy cruisers. He tried to understand how humans could survive in these conditions. The ship's gravity was crushing. The cold made his skin hurt. The food made him sick. He asked the ship's captain, a woman named Jennifer Torres, how her crew endured it. "This is normal for us," Torres said with a shrug. "Earth gravity is actually a bit higher than this. And you should see winter in Canada. That's real cold." Melas couldn't comprehend it. His species evolved in warm, shallow oceans. Earth sounded like torture. "How did your people survive such a place?" Torres smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "We didn't have a choice. Earth doesn't care if you survive or not. It just is. So we learned to be tougher than the planet. We learned to outlast everything that tried to kill us. We're still here because we refused to quit." She showed Melas the ship's weapon systems. He recognized some of the principles from Band Council research. Weapons that used too much energy. Missiles that caused too much damage. Defensive systems that exposed the crew to dangerous radiation levels. "These weapons are illegal under Council law," Melas said nervously. "Good thing we're not in Council space then," Torres replied. "Look, we didn't build these ships to make friends or follow rules. We built them to fight. If we need to break some laws to save the galaxy, I can live with that." Melas sent a report to the Council warning them about human weapons technology. The Council debated whether to demand humans disarm. Then reports came in that the machine swarm had consumed 3 more star systems. The debate ended quickly. They decided not to complain about human weapons just yet. Other species began volunteering to join the human fleet. A group of Kryn warriors arrived in their patrol ships, saying their honor demanded they fight. A merchant captain from the Taraxian Empire showed up with a cargo hauler converted into a weapons platform. A few independent crews from a dozen different species came because they had heard Dr. Thalus's message and couldn't look away. Chun welcomed them all, but made the situation clear. "This isn't going to be like your training simulations. This is going to be ugly, bloody, desperate. If you stay, you follow human tactics. That means pushing your ships harder than you think possible. It means taking risks that seem insane. It means accepting that we might all die trying." Most of them stayed anyway. The alien crews moved to the back of the formation, where they would support the human ships, but not take the worst of the fighting. Chun didn't ask them to do more than they could handle. Every ship helped. The fleet's tactical officers worked day and night analyzing the machine swarm. They studied every piece of data the Council had collected. They looked for patterns, weaknesses, anything that might help. A young analyst named David Kim found something interesting. The machines adapt fast, but they adapt to what they've seen before, he explained to Chun. If we show them Tactic A, they'll counter it. If we show them Tactic B, they'll counter that too. But if we constantly change, constantly do something new, they need time to adjust. How much time? Chun asked. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe a minute. Not long. Long enough, Chun said. We'll hit them with everything at once. Every trick we know. Change tactics every minute. Keep them off balance. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. Chun called a meeting of all ship captains. From people who refused to quit, even when everything was trying to kill them. They gathered in the Indomitables briefing room, both in person and via video link. Chun stood at the front and showed them what they were up against. The machine swarm now controlled 17 star systems. Billions of individual machines, all working together with perfect coordination. They had consumed whole planets, turning them into raw materials for more machines. The numbers were terrifying. We're outnumbered roughly 8,000 to 1, Chun said calmly. Council analysts say it's impossible to win. They're probably right. She paused and looked at each captain in turn. But impossible is just a word. Humans have been doing impossible things since we figured out how to make fire. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived everything Earth threw at us. We're going to survive this too. Captain Rodriguez of the HDCS Relentless raised his hand. What's the primary objective, Admiral? Chun pulled up a new image. It showed the largest machine construct, a structure the size of a small moon, at the heart of the swarm. The machines are networked. They share information instantly, coordinate perfectly. We think this is their central hub. Destroy it, and the whole swarm loses coordination. They'll still be dangerous, but they won't be working together anymore. How do we get to it? Someone asked. We fight through them, Sean said simply. 12 of our heaviest ships will make the assault run. The rest of the fleet holds off the swarm and keeps them busy. It's going to cost us a lot. But if we take out that hub, we save the galaxy. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what Chun was really saying. The assault team probably wouldn't come back. Neither would most of the fleet. This was a one-way mission. I need volunteers for the assault team, Chun said. I need 12 captains willing to go all the way. Every hand in the room went up. Every single one. Chun had to choose 12 from 200, and it was the hardest decision she had ever made. Finally, she selected the 12 heaviest cruisers with the best armor and weapons. Rodriguez and the Relentless made the list dot as the meeting ended and captains returned to their ships. Chun allowed herself one moment of doubt. 40,000 humans were about to risk everything for aliens they had never met. For a galaxy that didn't fully trust them. For people who had died calling for help, was it worth it? She thought about Dr. Thelis, dying alone while machines tore his ship apart. She thought about his final message. Someone, anyone, please. Yes, it was worth it. Chun walked back to the bridge and gave the order. The Doom fleet jumped toward the afflicted systems, ready for war. The Doom fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the infected zone. What they saw made even experienced officers stop and stare. 17 star systems were gone. Not destroyed, gone. Where planets once orbited, there was only debris fields being processed into raw materials. Where moons once hung in space, there were factory constructs assembling more machines. The swarm filled the void like a living thing, billions of individual units moving with terrible purpose. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the sensors count the enemy. The numbers kept climbing. 8 million, 10 million, 20 million. The computer finally stopped trying to count individual units and just estimated the total mass. It was more than all the ships ever built by every council species combined. All ships, battle formation, Chun ordered. Her voice was steady. Assault team, stay in reserve until we clear a path. Everyone else, weapons free. Show them what humans can do. The fleet surged forward. 200 doom ships against an ocean of machines. It should have been suicide. Maybe it was. But humans had faced impossible odds before, and they were still here. The first wave of machines came at them fast. Sleek drones designed for speed and numbers. They swarmed around the human ships like angry insects. But the doom ships didn't rely on accuracy or precision. They relied on overwhelming firepower. Thousands of guns opened up at once, filling space with explosive rounds. The drones died by the hundreds. But for every 100 destroyed, 1,000 more came. The machines learned quickly. The second wave approached from different angles, trying to flank the human formation. Chun smiled grimly. Time to show them something new. All ships pattern Delta. Execute now. The fleet formation broke apart in what looked like chaos. Ships scattered in every direction, engines pushing them to accelerations that would kill most species. The machines tried to follow, spreading out to chase individual targets. Then the human ships all turned at once and fired from new positions, catching the machines in a crossfire. Thousands more died. 30 seconds later, the machines adapted. They tightened their formation, protecting each other. Chun switched tactics again. The human ships formed into tight groups, concentrating fire on single targets. Then they scattered before the machines could respond. Then they regrouped. Every minute brought a new tactic, a new pattern, keeping the swarm off balance. The alien ships supporting the humans watched in awe and terror. This wasn't elegant ship combat. It was brutal, desperate brawling. Human ships took hits that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. Crew members override safety systems to squeeze out more engine power, more weapon fire, more everything. They were pushing their ships past every safe limit. On the HDCS Defiant, Captain Torres fought with cold efficiency. Her ship shook as enemy fire hit the armor. Screens showed damage reports from every section. Hull breaches. Systems failing. People injured and dying. Torres ignored it all and kept firing. "Captain, we've lost port weapons array," her tactical officer shouted over the noise. "Rotate ship. Use starboard array," Torres ordered. "Engineering, I need more power to weapons." "We're already at maximum," the engineer replied. "If I push harder, we risk engine failure." "Then risk it. We don't need engines if we're dead." The engineer did as ordered. The Defiant's weapons blazed brighter, cutting through machine formations. The ship shuddered with each shot, but it kept fighting. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. The HDCS Valiant lost its main engines and used maneuvering thrusters to keep position. The HDCS Thunderchild took a hit that vented 3 decks to space, but sealed the sections and kept shooting. The HDCS Determined had its bridge destroyed and switched to emergency command from engineering. They kept fighting. This was what Deathworlders did. They survived. They adapted. They refused to quit even when any sane species would surrender. The machines began to understand they were facing something new. These weren't like the soft species they had encountered before. These ships could take damage. The crews could survive conditions that should kill them. The tactics changed faster than the swarm could adapt. For the first time since waking up, the machines encountered an enemy that fought back effectively. But there were just so many of them. For every machine destroyed, 10 more took its place. The human fleet was winning every individual fight, but slowly losing the battle. Ships started to fall. The HDCS Aurora took catastrophic damage and exploded in a ball of fire. The HDCS Pathfinder lost main power and drifted helplessly until machines tore it apart. Chun watched her fleet die and kept her face emotionless. This was always the plan. Hold the swarm's attention. Make them commit everything to stopping the main fleet. Create an opening for the assault team. "Assault team, the path is clearing," she transmitted. "Get to that hub. Make this worth it." 12 heavy cruisers broke from the fleet and accelerated toward the swarm's heart. The HDCS Relentless led the way, Captain Rodriguez at the helm. Behind him came the HDCS Vengeance, the HDCS Wrath, and 9 others. The heaviest, toughest ships humanity had built, all crewed by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't return. The machines tried to stop them. Thousands of drones swarmed the assault team. But these ships were built for exactly this. Thick armor absorbed hits that would vaporize normal vessels. Point defense weapons created a sphere of fire around each ship. They pushed forward through sheer determination. Rodriguez watched his screens as the main fleet died protecting them. Ships he had served on, people he had trained with, friends going back decades. all dying to get in this chance. He gripped his command chair harder and focused on the mission. The assault team reached the inner system. The machine hub loomed ahead, a massive construct that defied description. It was beautiful in a terrible way, a perfect sphere of metal and energy surrounded by defensive platforms. The machines threw everything at the assault team. Weapons that hadn't been used before appeared, firing beams of energy that carved through armor like butter. The HDCS Wrath died first, cut in half by a massive energy weapon. The HDCS Vengeance lost its engines and tumbled out of formation. One by one, the assault ships fell. But they fought every meter of the way, their weapons never stopping, their crews never surrendering. Rodriguez and the Relentless were among the last 3 ships to reach the hub itself. His ship was dying around him, life support failing, engines barely functioning, half his crew dead. But they were close. So close, all power to weapons, Rodriguez ordered. I don't care about anything else. Just weapons. The engineer looked at him with understanding. If they did this, they wouldn't be able to maneuver or defend. They would drift helpless toward the hub. It was a suicide run. Aye, Captain, the engineer said quietly. All power to weapons. The Relentless shook as every system shut down except weapons and basic life support. The ship's massive guns charged with the energy meant for engines, shields, everything. Rodriguez aimed at the hub's reactor core, visible through the defensive layers they had blasted through. This is for Dr. Thelas, Rodriguez said, and for everyone who died today. He fired. The Relentless emptied every weapon at once in a single devastating blast. The beams and missiles hit the hub's reactor and penetrated deep. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the reactor began to fail. Rodriguez watched the reactor go critical on his screens. He smiled. They had done it. He opened a channel to Admiral Chun, wherever she was. Tell the Valari, he said. Someone heard them. The reactor exploded. The blast consumed the Relentless, the other assault ships, and the entire machine hub. The explosion cascaded through the machine network like a virus. Across 17 star systems, billions of machines suddenly stopped receiving orders. They stuttered. They hesitated. They lost coordination. The swarm was broken. Admiral Chun, bleeding from a dozen wounds on the bridge of the barely functioning Indomitable, watched the machines fall silent. Around her, the remains of the doomed fleet drifted in space. Of 200 ships, less than 30 were still functional. 40,000 crew had become 12,000, but they had won. Against impossible odds, with terrible losses, humanity had answered the call for help. The machines were defeated. Chun slumped in her command chair and finally let herself feel the weight of what they had done. They had saved the galaxy, and it had cost them everything. The galaxy watched everything. From the moment the doomed fleet entered the infected systems until the final explosion that destroyed the machine hub, humanity broadcast the entire battle on open channels. They didn't hide anything. The victories, the deaths, the desperate courage and terrible losses. Every species in the Council saw what happened when someone finally answered Dr. Thelas's call for help. The surviving human ships limped back to Council space over the next week. They were broken vessels held together by emergency repairs and stubborn determination. Less than 30 ships returned from 200. Many were so damaged they could barely maintain life support. The HDCS Indomitable had lost half its armor, 3 engines, and most of its weapons. But Admiral Chun brought her ship home. The Council's galactic station appeared on their sensors. That massive structure where hundreds of species came together in peace. Chun expected a quiet docking, a brief report, maybe a thank you before humans went back to being the galaxy's strange newcomers. She was wrong. As the human fleet approached, something unprecedented happened. Every ship at the station, from massive diplomatic vessels to tiny personal shuttles, moved aside to create a path. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species, all moving in silence to let the battered human fleet pass. Chun stood on her damaged bridge and watched through the viewscreen. She didn't understand what was happening until her communications officer spoke quietly. "Admiral, they're saluting us." Chun looked closer. Every ship had their running lights on maximum, the galactic symbol for respect and honor. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity a month ago now lit up their vessels to honor the returning fleet. Some ships fired ceremonial weapons, creating patterns of light in the darkness. Others broadcast messages in hundreds of languages. "Thank you. You saved us. We won't forget." The Indomitable docked at the station's main port. Chun walked through corridors filled with alien species who stopped what they were doing to watch the humans pass. Some bowed. Others made gestures of respect from their own cultures. A group of Velari stood silently, water leaking from their eyes in their species' version of tears. Chun's uniform was stained with blood, some hers and some belonging to crew members she had tried to save. Her left arm was in a sling from a broken shoulder. Burns from a plasma fire covered the left side of her face. She walked past the watching crowds without acknowledging them, her back straight and her face expressionless. Behind her came the surviving crew members, equally battered and equally silent. The council chambers were packed. Every species had sent representatives. Every screen showed the feed to billions more watching from their home worlds. The council leader, an ancient being from a species whose name meant first speakers, stood as Chun entered. "Admiral Chun," he said in a voice that echoed through translation devices. "The galaxy owes you a debt we can never repay." "We don't want payment," Chun replied bluntly. "We did what needed to be done." She delivered her report with the same brutal honesty that defined her species. She didn't soften the numbers. 17,000 humans dead. 168 ships destroyed. Another 43 ships so damaged they would never fly again. She listed every loss, every sacrifice, every terrible decision she had made. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then the Velari delegation asked permission to speak. The council leader nodded, and a Velari named Palaz approached Chun. He was old. His blue skin faded to almost white, his movements slow with age. "I was Dr. Thelus's mentor," Palaz said quietly. "I trained him. I sent him to the outer reaches. His death is something I carry every day." He held out a small container. Inside were personal effects recovered from the wreckage of the Morning Light. A data crystal, a research journal, a small device that generated holographic images of Thelus's family. "We found these in the debris field," Palaz continued. "Your people searched through millions of kilometers of wreckage to recover them. This crystal contains his final research. I think you should see it." Chun took the crystal and loaded it into the chamber's computer. The screen showed Thelus's last research notes, recorded in the hours before his death. He had been analyzing the machine structure, trying to understand where it came from. What he found made Chun's blood run cold. The machines weren't unique. They were just one of dozens, maybe hundreds of similar systems scattered across the galaxy. Ancient weapons left behind by a civilization that died millions of years ago. All dormant, all waiting, all ready to wake up if someone made the mistake of disturbing them. Thelus's final entry was dated just minutes before the machines destroyed his ship. Chun read his words aloud to the silent chamber. "I have found evidence of 47 similar structures in the galactic database. They are everywhere, hidden in dead systems and forgotten places. We never recognized them because we stopped looking for threats. We became soft, comfortable. If we are not ready to fight, we do not deserve to survive. Someone must remember how to protect the innocent." Someone must be willing to pay the price. Chun finished reading and looked up at the council. He knew, before he died, Dr. Thelis knew this was just the beginning. And he was right. The chamber erupted in voices. Fear, panic, denial. The first speaker called for order, but it took several minutes for the crowd to quiet down. When they finally did, he looked at Chun. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" "We need to be ready," Chun said simply. "The machines are gone, but there are more out there. Maybe not this year or next year, but someday something else will threaten the galaxy. When that happens, we can't afford to debate for days while people die. We need ships. We need warriors. We need to remember how to fight." A council member from a species called the Taraxians stood up. "You are suggesting we militarize the galaxy. Abandon 3,000 years of peace. Return to the dark times." "I'm suggesting we learn from them," Chun corrected. "Peace is good. Peace is wonderful. But peace without the ability to defend it is just waiting to die." Dr. Thalis called for help, and only one species answered. "That can't happen again." The debate lasted for hours. Some species wanted to return to the old ways, pretending the machine threat was an isolated incident. Others wanted humanity to become the galaxy's military force, handling all threats while they stayed safe. Chun rejected both options. "We'll help," she said. "We'll train your people. We'll share our ship designs and our tactics. But this can't just be humanity's burden. Every species needs to be able to defend themselves and each other. That's what civilization means. Not hiding behind walls and hoping nothing bad happens. Standing together when the darkness comes." The vote took 3 days. In the end, the Council approved the creation of the Galactic Defense Force. It would be a joint military organization, with every species contributing according to their abilities. Humanity would provide tactical training and ship design consultation. The Velari would handle intelligence gathering and analysis. The Kryn would contribute their advanced shield technology. The Taraxians would provide manufacturing capacity. But the philosophy came from the Deathworlders. Prepare for the worst. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. When someone cries out in the darkness, answer with everything you have. Chun attended the first meeting of the new Defense Force with mixed feelings. She was glad the galaxy was finally taking threats seriously. But she couldn't forget the cost. 17,000 humans who would never go home. Captain Rodriguez and the relentless crew who sacrificed themselves for aliens they had never met. Every name on the casualty list represented someone's child, parent, friend, or lover. After the meeting, Palis found her in a quiet corridor. The old Velari carried a data pad. "I wanted you to know," he said. "We are creating a memorial. Every member of the Defense Force will see it during their training. Dr. Thelis's final message. Your fleet's response. The names of everyone who died. We will never forget what your species did." "It wasn't just humans," Chun said quietly. "Other species helped too." "Yes, but humanity led the way," Palis replied. "You showed us what we had forgotten. That sometimes the right thing is also the hardest thing. That courage means doing what must be done, even when you're afraid. That civilization is measured not by its peace, but by what it becomes when that peace is shattered." He handed her the data pad. On the screen was an image being installed at the new Defense Force headquarters. It showed the doomed fleet in formation, 200 ships heading toward the machine swarm. Below it, one sentence in every council language. One cry echoed across space. Deathworlders responded with doom ships. Chun stared at the image for a long time. Then she looked at Palis. "Will it be enough? If another threat comes, will the galaxy be ready?" "I don't know," Palis admitted. "But we have something now we didn't have before. We have hope." We have people willing to fight. We have your example to follow. Chun returned to Earth a week later. She stood in the cemetery where they had buried the crew members whose bodies were recovered. Thousands of graves, all marked with the Defense Force symbol. She walked among them, reading names, remembering faces. At Captain Rodriguez's grave, she stopped. Someone had left flowers, which seemed odd until Chun saw the note. It was from a Velare child whose family had been evacuated from one of the threatened systems. The note was simple, written in careful human English. "Thank you for saving my family. I will remember." Chun knelt down and touched the grave marker. "We heard you," she whispered. "Dr. Thelis, Captain Rodriguez, all of you. You called for help, and we answered. Rest well. We'll take it from here." She stood up and looked at the sky. Up there, in the darkness between stars, new Defense Force ships were being built. Mixed crews from dozens of species training together, learning to fight, learning to protect each other, learning that peace was something you had to be strong enough to defend. The galaxy had changed. In human space, they kept building doom ships, but now they carried crews from many species. And in every Council species history archives, Dr. Thelis's final transmission was preserved alongside humanity's response. One cry echoed across space. Deathworlders responded with doom ships, and the galaxy would never forget what that meant. When the darkness came, someone had answered. When impossible odds demanded impossible courage, humans had shown the way. Not because they were stronger, or smarter, or better than other species, but because they came from a world that taught them the most important lesson of all. Never give up. Never surrender. And when someone needs help, you answer the call. No matter what it costs.